Hi and welcome back to Module 2, Organisation in Living Things, and today we're going to have a look at the animal kingdom. So to date we have looked at plants and how they are able to produce their own nutrients through the process of photosynthesis, also using those products through respiration to make energy for themselves, how they can transport these gases throughout their cells, and then how do they transport the nutrients and their other essential ingredients, other essential gases and nutrients throughout their body or throughout their system. So we've looked at those. So now we need to think about animals and how are animals different. So I want you to have a bit of a think, pause the video and think of some answers to these two questions that we have. Why do we need oxygen and why do we need to get rid of carbon dioxide? So there is a little think bubble in your booklet where you can write a couple of points just there. So gas exchange. So oxygen is essential for all our cells to carry out cellular respiration. Now, this allows energy to be released from the nutrients that they have consumed. This is the same in plants. They also go through cellular respiration where they release energy from the nutrients, but instead of consuming their nutrients, they are producing them themselves through photosynthesis. Now, as a result of that cellular respiration, carbon dioxide is produced, and that's toxic if the concentrations get too high. So we need to be able to remove that carbon dioxide from our body systems because it can affect the pH of the cells, and then the way, as we realized when we did a pH experiment, if the pH or the acidity levels, if it becomes too acidic, then it is going to affect the functioning. So what we need to realize is this gas exchange does occur in all animals. It may be different, but it certainly occurs. And it's the exchange of the gases between the internal and the external environment. Now, we've done a fair bit on diffusion here, so you know then that diffusion is that movement across the cell membrane from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. So the respiratory system is what enables this to happen in more complex organisms such as humans. So here is a picture that you would have seen before, certainly in year 8 when we looked at the human body, and it may very well be familiar to you. So we can see the respiratory system here is obviously of a human, and again it does differ from animal to animal, but this is a good one to start with because it's certainly one that we are familiar with. So it's made up of a whole host of specialized tissues that enable oxygen to be taken in and carbon dioxide to be removed. So we have our nasal cavity, so that's that region in and around your nose, and obviously under here our nostrils by which the air is taken in if you're a nose breather, and through your oral cavity if you're a mouth breather. So coming in, the airways are connected, so our nasal cavity through and our oral cavity do come together, and at the back there of our throat high is our pharynx. So some of you may have had pharyngitis before rather than laryngitis, and that is there at the back of your throat. As we come down here, we are traveling down our trachea, and down this way is the ribbed cartilage where the air travels down. This here, just before it becomes the trachea, is your larynx. So the air travels down the trachea and it comes to the bronchi. One of them is called the bronchus, so it branches into our bronchi. and then moves into smaller branching called our bronchioles. So some of you may have had bronchitis, so an infection usually in and around your bronchus, or bronchiolitis, often common in children, which might have been infections in these little branches here. So within there we have our right and our left lung, each of them then branching off from the right bronchus or the left bronchus, and at the end of each of these are our tiny little sacs, and they are our alveoli. Now the diaphragm here is also important. It's a muscle at the end or at the base of our lungs, and when it draws down, so if the diaphragm moves down, that is increasing the volume then within our lungs, and air is drawn into our lungs, and when it moves back up, the volume is decreasing and the lungs or the air is moved out of the lungs there. So again, diffusion is still occurring here. In microscopic organisms, diffusion is still moving across that cell membrane, but in larger multicellular organisms such as ourselves, the gas exchange is taking place inside the human or inside the body, and that's again to stop any dehydration occurring, and we need moist surfaces for respiration to occur effectively. So there's some common characteristics that all organisms share with regards to their gas structures. So let's have a look at those. Now, they all have a large surface area, so the alveoli is contributing there to that large surface area. So this large surface area is enhanced by folding, flattening out there, or branching. So more branches, a greater surface area. So this allows a faster rate of diffusion to occur across that cell membrane and to the cells, and then the carbon dioxide in reverse moving from our bloodstream across into our alveoli and out of our body again. All of these animals share a common characteristic, and that is of a moist, thin surface. So again, a moist surface ensures that the oxygen and the carbon dioxide can dissolve for easier diffusion across that membrane, and the thinness decreases the gas, the space or the distance that the gases actually have to travel here. Now, they also need to be in a close proximity to an efficient transport system. Now, our transport system is our circulatory system that we will look at in a bit more detail soon, but it enables then those gases and those nutrients to be moved all throughout our body. And again, coming back to that diffusion, having a greater concentration of required gas, the gas that we want, on one side of the membrane compared to the other. So again, remembering oxygen is in greater concentration in the air compared to our bloodstream. So that concentration gradient is moving oxygen from the outside to the inside. Carbon dioxide is higher within our bloodstream and is therefore moving across to where it is lower, which is in the air, and we then remove it. So looking here, we are looking at an alveoli, or a diagram of an alveoli. Now, one alveoli is called an alveolus. Alveoli is plural. So we are looking at a way that we can increase our surface area and also improve that transfer of gases. So if you have a look at this alveolus here, it's an air sac, and it's surrounded here by capillaries, and that's really important for that diffusion across that membrane so that those nutrients, gases, and so forth can be moved. So the alveoli have all the features that allow for an efficient gas exchange. They have increased surface area. There's about 300 million alveoli, so there's plenty of them, allowing for an efficient transport or gas exchange there. Each alveoli is really, really thin. It has a thin lining, again, facilitating efficient diffusion. It's a moist lining, so all surfaces of our respiratory system are moist. Mucus lines the epithelial cells or the epithelium, and again, reducing that evaporation there. Now we're surrounded by capillaries, so that's a really reducing the distance there between the alveoli itself and our bloodstream. And again, that concentration gradient that I spoke of before, where the carbon dioxide in the body, if we imagine here body, bloodstream or whatever, is moving across, because in the bloodstream here it is in higher concentration and we're wanting to get rid of it. It moves to where it is low concentration, and the reverse is said there for the oxygen. So I'm going to leave you there. I think that's a little bit of information for today. In your books, and I'll just move me down and over here, there is a question that talks about validity, reliability, and accuracy of secondary sources there. So I need you to consider some things when we're talking about this. There is an article that I want you to read on page 45 and 46, and it's looking at some information again about the number of alveoli in a human body and some potential misprints, perhaps errors, that really makes you think and makes you have to critically analyze the sources that you do use. So how do we know if one of our articles is valid? We have to think about, well, who is the author? Is the article biased? Do they have a vested interest in you taking their information as gospel? Is the source of the publication reputable? And this is where we come into issues with Wiki. Was the data collected using appropriate methods? Is it current information? If we're looking at something 20 years ago, maybe things have changed since then, maybe not, but perhaps they have. How current is your source? And does it relate to what we're actually investigating? So that's validity. But to look at then if it's reliable, you need to think about, is the information gathered from more than one, that should say, valid source? Have we gone to multiple sources to confirm that the information and the information there is all the same? And then accuracy. To be accurate, it has to be valid and reliable. So what I'm going to ask you to do is read that article, highlight bits and pieces as necessary, and then I want you to check for the number of alveoli and the surface area of the alveoli using Google Scholar. So if you go into Google, there is a Scholar section there, and I want you to identify the correct number of alveoli found in humans and justify your answer. So we've already done how to do a justify and what justify means. So you're going to do a bit of research, justify then the answer after reading that information and doing your own research. I'll talk to you soon.